Mackenzie Johnston with Tri-State Livestock News, bringing you discussions concerning fair cattle markets. Today we have the opportunity to chat with John Hansen of Granville, Iowa, which is located about 50 miles northeast of Sioux City. Can you tell me a little bit about your background, where you're located, and your involvement within the cattle industry?
Yes, I live in northwest Iowa on a family farm and raised cattle, hogs, and corn and beans for the last 70, it's a century farm. I've been here almost 57 years and been involved in the process the last 37 years running this operation. We are a feeder to finish feedlot, and we raise all of our own corn for our cattle.
So what do you feel are the major issues standing in the way of fair cattle markets today?
Well, there's really not a lot of packer competition.
What do you think we could implement for solutions to fix this issue?
Well, it's going to be very tough. Price discovery would help. I do not feel that we have a very good price discovery anymore like we used to. It's just a matter of, what are they going to give us this week, and take it or leave it.
So with that being said, what are your thoughts on Senator Grassley's 5014 legislation?
Well, I think it's got some merit. I think that'd be a good deal to get more open market if they at least implement each packing house must do so instead of just the packer as a whole, meaning that they have to, some plants could get away with buying none and others could have to buy 100%. It would be better if they all had to buy 50%.
What are your thoughts on imports of beef and cattle?
I don't know why we allow companies to import some cheaper meat that don't have to withstand the USDA guidelines as far as implants, vaccinations, how the livestock was raised, and I just don't think that we should be importing that stuff.
Do you think our industry is in danger of becoming vertically integrated?
Absolutely. 3 years ago, I would have kind of laughed at you, but the last 6 months, I've been in the hog business 25, 30 years and seen vertical integration happen. I see it happening in the beef industry a lot faster than I ever dreamt, and I'm very concerned about that because as being a family farm, I would like to pass it on to the next generation, and I'm concerned about the beef being so vertically integrated we'd be working for somebody else.
What do you think we do to head that off? What do we do to avoid vertical integration?
The concentration of packers is totally against that, with the Big Four doing 80%. I would like to say, break up the packer concentration, but in doing so, even if we started a few new plants, from what I would see is the packers would let it go on until they got up and running, and then they'd just drop the price and put the little packers out of business and buy them up for 10 cents on the dollar and still be vertically integrated. I just don't know if there's a real good solution to that other than enforcing some of the laws with a P&S now and regulating the packers on ownership.
Why do you think our country has went so long without enforcing these antitrust laws that hold our packers accountable?
I believe, and it kind of goes back to like the NCBA having packers on the board, and they kind of tend to rule to whatever their political affiliation is as far as with the packer and or to their point as far as whatever's best for them. And so we are not getting a good picture or a true aspect of it.
So what are your thoughts on the DOJ investigation into our packers? Do you think that's going to yield any kind of results?
Well, I think it's been total bullshit, to be frank with you, but there was enough evidence out there that Holcomb, and also since the box beef prices skyrocket and live prices go down.
What are your thoughts? So I'm sure, as you know, NCBA passed policy a few weeks ago to voluntarily.
Go voluntary instead of mandatory.
What are your thoughts on that?
The NCBA really does not support local cattlemen anymore. They have packers on their board, which to me is not who they should represent. They're changing the wording to appease the packer as far as going from a mandatory to a voluntary. And if you think the packers will voluntarily give up anything, then we have a problem.
More than ever, consumers want to know where their food comes from. What are your thoughts on MCOOL?
I think MCOOL would be great. Everything else I buy anywhere else has a label on it where it was made, where it comes from. Why can our beef not be that way? Other entities do, just not our beef and our pork. I think it's something that we really need to get past. I think it benefits us greatly. It gives the housewife a choice. If they don't like the price on American beef and they want to buy the cheaper stuff, then that's their choice. But give them a choice instead of just saying, well, here's beef and making everything equal as far as hamburger. You and I both know hamburger and hamburger are not hamburger.
Some folks are now saying that we're out of the woods when it comes to these cattle market issues, as we have seen the markets come back fairly strong. What are your thoughts on this statement, and what do you see going forward in the near future with the cattle markets?
Well, I'm not thinking we're out of the woods yet on pricing, because we have cattle ready that are not making any money at this point. We should be at $1.20 to $1.25, I believe, if you compare it to the box beef prices. And here we're at $1.05 to $1.10 maybe. I don't think there's a transparency from box beef prices to our live cash market. So I don't think we're, back to where we should be at this time. As far as looking forward, I'm fairly optimistic. Our feeders could be bought at a more reasonable price, although they've increased in the last few weeks. But, farmers and cattle feeders are optimistics.
Yeah.
They always, everything's going to get better. It'll get better next time, but I've had 3 years of nothing good, and so it's made it a lot tougher to keep everybody happy. And I understand the feeder end of it, because I got a lot of good friends in the feeder business, but if a cattle finishing guy like myself does not make money, how do we keep paying more and more for feeders? And the feeder market is actually probably in better hands, being a open market than the fat cattle market. That's where it's pretty captive supply per se. It's very tough to get more than one or two bids anymore. It's a matter of you got 10 minutes to sell the cattle, take it or leave it, and you can't even check with people to see other people. And then if you don't sell them to them for a time or two, they don't want to come back. So all of a sudden, you don't have competition, and even though you might be selling on the open market at all times, which I'm part of the problem. I don't sell on the open market all the time either, but I got to do where I can make the most money. First comes me and then everybody else, to be honest with you. Wherever I can, there's opportunity. If we can sell open, that's one thing, but if we have no competition, it's pretty hard to do it that way all the time. I just talked to a guy the other day that his dad's got 200 head of fat cattle that are done, they're over big, and he's been trying to sell them for a month, and the packer won't even come out and talk to him anymore. And he's like, we don't know what to do with them because they won't, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't have been sold earlier, but the problem is if you want to sell them today, they're for sale today, either bid on them but they don't even want to come out. When we had the packing houses closed down for 2 weeks, they supposedly backed all these cattle up. I'm not sure they backed up as far as they think they did, but I think that's why our prices, the packers are still using that as a pressure point to keep the purchase prices down on fed cattle.